8 May 2022. Thanks for tuning in to my official YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe to my official YouTube channel, like my official YouTube video, and if you're going to leave a comment, please do make sure to have etiquette and respect, unlike what I've dealt with in a few references. So as a forewarning, I might have a little bit of an attitude for this particular official YouTube video. Okay, so back in the year of 2006, I went to a situation where I had played pool. Yeah, I was a substitute for a pool tournament at Fast Eddie's. I had a little pair of jeans on, and a white t-shirt with a little American flag VW Beetle, before I had Zippy. Now Zippy was my bumblebee car. That was a VW Beetle, but Zippy had a black convertible hood and a black leather interior looking like a little bumblebee, compared to my VW Beetle that had a black convertible top and the American flag with glitter. So I dealt with this guy, all right? So I was there. It was after the garage situation regarding Cactus Jack, also known as Jeffrey Kirkendall Jr. His brother was also on the team, and his brother, Jeremy Kirkendall, was dating, he hadn't been engaged yet, to Leslie. I don't know what her last name is. Anyway, this was in San Antonio, ironically off of 281 and Bitters. So however you choose to take this into consideration. So my hair was a brighter red in comparison, and pretty much along the style of, I didn't have all the tattoos that I have, but there were some starting. And this particular team that we were going against, where I was a substitute because Leslie wasn't capable to make it in at the time, to start on time, happened to have been the best team in the league. And you know, I hadn't played pool since, well, 1998. And so, well, I shouldn't say that. I hadn't played pool in that capacity, though not in the official, you know, sort of tournament-ish-y sort of way since 1998, 1999, okay? Not to the same level of Fast Eddie's Pool Hall, though it is what it is. So I had sat off to the side because it was one of those, well, if she shows up, she can take care of it at the time. Well, yeah, it was as it was. So Cactus Jack was playing this one guy who is, it's an irony as far as Temple of Flesh, because there was a character in this one performance I had done named Douche, and this guy was a douchebag. And so he really was. He was one of those males that you could see like 20 feet off in the distance, and you just look and just be like, that guy looks like a douchebag. You know, that type of like, it emanates in comparison where you're just like, ugh, wow. Well, and then they open their mouth and you're like, ooh, okay, so I thought you were gonna be wow, in comparison to sometimes, you know, you can look at someone and you don't necessarily see it occur, but then sometimes you kind of do. And so he got mad, okay? And he was walking, let me give you examples of how he was walking around the table. So he's just like, you know, he does this thing, you know, he's just sort of whatever. Like, it was almost like he was posing in some ways, like if, for those who know what I'm talking about regarding certain types of pool tournament guys. And I don't know if he was having like bad Leroy Brown running around in his head or something like that, but it was as it was, okay? Don't know what his issues were. Anyway, so he missed the shot, okay? And it was, and to his defense, ironically, it was a difficult shot because of the way the few balls were around the 8 ball. Okay, fine. Now, if he had waited, Cactus Jack was gonna miss the shot anyway. What did this guy do? He picks up the cue ball and throws it in a tournament. And he didn't he didn't like softball it, okay? He did like a baseball throw, okay? Like, talk about douchey McDouchey titty baby temper tantrum when he did this. And it was just one of those, well, you forfeited the match. That's all I said. Those who have met me and known me in person, most specifically known me in person, face to face in person, and if I see something incorrect, that lack of a filter that I have had, especially since after waking up from a head injury coma. So this guy has no idea who I am, all right? Not that I'm anybody, whatever. But he doesn't have any idea who I am. So he throws the little cue ball. And he kind of did it that way too. And so those who have known me, I just go and say, well, you forfeited the game. And he goes and runs after the ball and he's like, no, I didn't forfeit the game. And he throws slams the cue ball on the table. And I said, no, you did. You threw the cue ball. It went off of the pool table. And so you forfeited the tournament as far as this particular match, which it is what it is. And he goes and says, what are you, a referee? No, I just have common sense. That's what it is. I just have common sense. You're in a tournament. You know, this is this. And so he throws this temper tantrum. Now, Jeffrey Kirkendall Jr. and Jeremy Kirkendall Jr. stand there looking at me, saying nothing and doing nothing. Instead of saying something, I'm standing, this is nothing new. This is so annoying as to how many times I've dealt with this. You know, okay, at the very minimum, they didn't go hide in an alleyway. Nonetheless, so I just stand there and it's just like, I'm just letting you know, well, he's, you know, something like 6'2", and he's just, how dare you, do you know, blah, blah, blah. That's nice for you. Anyway, you still threw the cue ball, and so you forfeited the match. That's how it goes. So he, you know, temper tantrum, and he goes, the irony is his teammates are doing the exact same thing. They're just kind of standing there like, what are we seeing? What's going on? And this guy, he is mad. He's so mad. He's so raw. I'm just standing there and it's like, that's nice. Okay, so, and then after he continues a bit more, I then tell him, well, you know, if you really want something to be mad at, I could tell you something to be mad at. And he goes and says, what is it that you could say that could make me angry? Well, because for those who actually know how I can see, I go and say, well, if you actually hadn't forfeited that match, Cactus Jack was going to scratch on his shot and you actually would have had a clear shot and you would have sunk the ball without making any other problems. It would actually have been a really cool shot, but you know, you forfeited the match and instead you picked up the cue ball and threw it like a temper tantrum. He apparently did not like that. Because he then looked at the pool table and saw exactly what I meant. And so he goes, well, you know, we could just do this and do the no. This is how it goes. You're so mean. Yeah, you don't know what mean is. You have no idea what it is for me to be mean at all. You know, so then he gets in my face. He's like a few inches away from my face. And he called me a hippie. Oh, now I'm angry. Now you calling me a hippie? Because then I'm thinking of my biological mother's sister, okay? So I'm thinking of the 1960s, 1970s hippie, and I'm like, oh no, you didn't. Oh no. So internally, I'm thinking, oh no. If I had earrings, you just call me a hippie? No, I'll leave my rings on. I'll take off my chain. No. Like, for those who understand, because I was born and raised in New Jersey. In the 1980s, 1990s. So internally, it's one of those, oh no, he did not just compare me to my aunt. Oh no, he didn't. I'm going to take off my bangles. Oh no, he didn't. In my thoughts. I'm about to open a window up in here. Oh no. You know, for those who understand that. And so instead I do what I can to remain as calm as I can, because it's one of those, internally I am, so but outside I have to be, you know, compare me to my Aunt Chris. No he didn't. She did, because I know what she did in the 1960s and 1970s, and it's like, oh no, I know what she did. I know what she did. Oh no, she did. Some male going and talking some smack. Well, what does he do? He goes and finds a guy. Great. Comes back, and then before he does this though, he brings up the game of golf. Okay? Goes and says, you know, in the game of golf, because after he looked at the table, he's like, in the game of golf. And when I wouldn't allow him to use the game of golf, not as a metaphor, he was trying to literally say that in the game of golf, you're allowed to apparently pick up the ball and put it in the hole, which I don't think so. I don't play golf, but I'm fairly certain that's not something you do. If it is, that doesn't make sense. However, whatever, fine. Maybe as far as like if you miss the par level, it's not really that you pick it up and put it in, but it doesn't matter because he was literally talking about, you know, picking up the ball and then redoing it. And he had thrown the cue ball. You know, I mean, he literally threw the cue ball, and it's like, you know what? I don't have patience for this guy at all whatsoever. He kept coming at me and kept coming at me, and I'm not even the one playing. I'm literally just standing there. I didn't do anything. This male had such insecurities in himself that he kept coming after me, and I'm a female. That's like, you know what? You know, I literally have been dealing with what I've been dealing with. And then there's the garage situation, and then there's Cactus Jack over there. It's like, yeah, no, I don't have the patience for this. Can things get easier for me in comparison to this sort of garbage? Why would you purposefully do this? What type of a male are you? Sort of situation. Like, what is this? You claim to be a biological adult enough to walk into this bar. You know, you'd think you wouldn't have such a titty baby temper tantrum, in my opinion, okay? So anyway, he has his titty baby temper tantrum some more, calls me a hippie. I ask him, you know, because, what would make you think I am a hippie? Like, and I'm literally, like, I don't know how my face was contorting. I don't know if I had a twitch or something like that. I'm sure I probably did. Because it's one of those, and I did. I asked, why would you call me a hippie? And he pointed to my shirt. Now here's where he was very close to death. Yes, he came close to touching my shirt. And so I grabbed his hand. Yeah, or I should say his finger. And so, yeah, he was literally like an inch and a half away. And it was just one of those, so you should do that. And so he backed off. Yes, and then he went and got a guy. And then the guy came over and he's like, I want you to meet someone. Oh, okie dokie. So I get introduced to this guy. And the guy goes, he was in Vietnam. Are you seriously? Oh, really? Okay. No. Because then I'm thinking of my biological mother's sister, Chris, who was an actual hippie. And then it's like, and so I'm just saying, so I've got it. And then, I got Grandpa Nichols. I'm just saying, for those who know, I spend a lot, or at that time, I was spending a lot of time with Grandpa Nichols, and it's like, yeah, no, we could totally do this, I mean, if you wanna throw down of, whatever, as far as that's concerned, I don't have to really, but like, if you really wanna, go there. And so, he says the guy's name. I'm like, oh, well, thank you for your service. And I'm respectful, He's like, I don't know why I'm over here. I'm like, he threw the cue ball and he's trying to use you to get out of the fact that he threw the cue ball. Yes, he's upset because he forfeited a match. And the guy goes, I didn't forfeit a match. Except you did. Yeah, you did. Yeah, and so the guy goes, did you really pick up the cue ball and throw it? And the male goes, yes, but I didn't forfeit the match. And he goes, actually, you did. He's like, you know what? You're supposed to be on my side, bro code, and all this stuff. And I'm just standing there. Again, both sets of teammates are standing there just kind of like, well, what do we do now? What's going on? And so this guy's just like, well, it is what it is. Well, both sets of douchebags, because why would any of them actually be men, beyond the biological aspects, because why would there ever be any chivalry? As to any one of them being like, hey, you shouldn't do that. Like, for example, Cactus Jack or his brother saying she's a substitute and so on and so forth. Or the other two being like, why are you being a douchebag to a female? Something along those lines. Instead, they allowed it. And it's like, you are not men to me. You lost your man cards. That's it. You have no man cards. Sure, you're going to meet some females who are going to eunuch you or something, because no, you are not men. What I have to say is what it is. It would be so funny if, in regards of the adult consenting lifestyle, I'm just going to leave that at that. And so, it is what it is. And so, this male is being such a titty baby. So titty baby temper tantrum. It's like he's trying to use his friend, and then it's like, I don't really care. And he has no idea that I'm medically retired from the Army. Has no idea that I fought to be in the Army at the age of 17 years old. Has no idea that I was invited to Marine and Science Technology School with the Navy attachment. Has no idea as to anything that I personally have done. Has no clue. Nothing. I'm just, well, cool. If you want to name drop this guy, he'll deal with you later. But that is what it is. This guy keeps yipping. And again, he has this guy from Vietnam War telling him, as he's like, well, he has shrapnel in his leg. Yeah, well, hopefully that works itself out so that way you don't have an issue anymore. Which is an irony later regarding Bobo, but that is what it is. So then this guy, he just yip, complains and whines. And then when I won't let up, I'm like, well, if you have that much of a problem, go get the referee. And he was like, well, I thought you were the referee. No! Well, why would you think I'm the referee? And he was like, because it's like, so you just went and did a titty baby temper tantrum to who you think is this? You know, I have sympathy for the referees. If this is what they deal with, get out of here. So he goes and finds one of the referees. She comes over and she's like, okay, what happened? And, you know, she said that he already told her what happened. So Cactus Jack, also known as Jeffrey Kirkendall Jr., he goes and says what he did and what happened. And so then she asks me what I said, and I told her what I said. She asks the guy to repeat himself. He tells her, yeah, picked up the cue ball and threw it off the table after missing the shot. She says, well, and she points to me, she's correct. You missed your shot, you picked up the cue ball and you threw it. That's your fault. The guy goes and throws some more of a temper tantrum, calls me a hippie again. Calls me a hippie. I don't think hippies, you know, are that supportive of the armed forces of the United States of America. I'm fairly certain that's kind of known, especially in regards of the 1960s and 1970s. Just saying. So then, you know, Some do work again, remain gone. Yeah. The irony, I got the shirt for the 4th of July. But you know, he's not even hippie. Yeah, no, go to my website, www.susanneeling.com. And so this guy just throws his little titty baby temper tantrum. Won't stop. Just titty baby temper tantrum after titty baby temper tantrum after titty baby temper tantrum. And so the tournament goes on. I go to play, you know, because of being the substitute. I go play and I make a few shots. It is what it is. And every now and then he goes, boom. Now, mind you, I had wanted to do, so in track and field, I wanted to do pole vaulting. Okay. And so I actually showed my coach that I could hold the pole like a spear. Okay. Aside from my scuba diving, that is what it is. So I have a pool stick in my hand. This guy continues to be like, there are these pool balls on this pool table that is made out of wood. There is a wood, I'm sure there are people who know what a pool table is, that's regulation size. So as he's going boogada, it's like, so there is this wooden table very close to you. There is this whole rack of a whole bunch of pool sticks. Some of them have this little metal miniature fairy rake on it. And this guy is running his mouth while there are pool balls on this pool table where underneath, I don't know if he knows this because he thought, you know, the game of golf, that is not AstroTurf. But then again, it kind of is like AstroTurf because usually under AstroTurf is concrete, or in comparison, whatever stone slate underneath the felt. And this guy is yipping. And every now and then, boom, while I'm ready to take a shot, again, there's all these pool sticks Anybody who's been to Fast Eddie's pool, there's a lot of them. There's couple of stools nearby where it's like, I don't know what this guy is thinking. It's one of those, is it because I'm a female that you think, like, should I mean, you know, as many people who said, I know how people are from New Jersey, I would guesstimate they wouldn't think that I was thinking that. And then there's my purse, which anybody who has a purse, it don't matter what's in it. If you know how to sling that, it is what it is. Forget, it's a modern day nunchuck depending on what you got. And I usually had purses with chains, so you know. You know, it is what it is. It is what it, there was some, I mean, and then there was the leather strap, so you know, like, come on now. And so this guy is just every now and then. Throughout the couple of games that it's like, you know, and then, oh, by the way, there were also these glass mugs. Because, you know, it's a pool. It's not, you know, little plastic Solo cups. It's these glass mug steins that they stick in the freezer. I don't know what this guy was thinking. But apparently he was thinking I was a hippie. I don't think so. And so, so he was losing his whatever, and it's like, and again, as I have a pool stick in my hand where there are pool balls. Again, they're not ping pong balls. And this guy is running it, it's like, hey, you know. No, that's fine. There's also this lip of a bar, by the way. Comes out about 16, 20 inches. Okay, and there's that, and it's like, what is this guy thinking? You know, situational awareness. Because it's not just the pool table that I'm playing on. There's one a few feet away. On the other side of where I'm taking a shot. I mean, seriously. You'd think this guy would have intelligence, but whatever. But he was in the Air Force. Yeah, he was in the Air Force. So then there's that. It's like, that's fine. So then when I don't react to him and I'm just like, I'm gonna be calm, I'm gonna be cool. As I look at this pool stick, check the back area, because you know you gotta make sure you don't hit anybody walking by. See this pool rack again, pool sticks. It's like, I am such a good person. These are actual thoughts. I am such a good person. I am so amazing. I mean, I'm not amazing, but like I kind of am because I'm so calm. You know, sort of thing. And so, you know, his little temper tantrum of temper tantrums. Okay. Well, so 2 more matches go by. And because I'm not responding to him, he is stomping around. He is so mad. He's so mad. He's literally stomping his feet. He goes and continues complaining because the referee additionally told him, like the actual referee. So then I get called, another ref walks up to me and she goes, "Excuse me, may I speak with you?" Sure, all right. Just finished whatever, that's fine. So I go into the back kitchen area. Okay, so go walk past the bar, go with the little swinging door. The kitchen area. What do you want? And she asks, because it's a different referee, I think, I don't know, maybe it was a twin or whatever. Go over the details. All over again. Female says, Well, he says that you were heckling him. No, I wasn't. I was just literally, I don't even, and at that point, I don't know what heckling is. So then I have that explained to me. I'm like, no, that's what he was doing. In comparison to me, I didn't do any of that. And so he was, well, you know, if she wasn't playing pool, and I'm standing there and I'm looking at this kitchen. I'm not saying I'm resourceful. And I'm also not saying that I've had certain situations. What I am saying is I was in a commercial grade kitchen. Okay? And this Air Force guy, no situational awareness in this guy. And so it's like, wow, look at this tile wall. Look at that counter of stuff. I'm gonna be cool. Be so calm. And so he goes and explains himself again, brings up the game of golf again. She goes and tells him this is the game of pool. I laugh. Because, you know, she told you. He throws some more of a temper tantrum. She then asks me what happened. I confirm the exact same thing. Yes, he picked up the cue ball and he threw it. He throws some more of a temper tantrum. The referee says, you know better. You shouldn't have done that. Period and end of story. And so he gets all mad and I explain, I was just substituting anyway. I'm not even a part of the league. And she goes and says, you were picking on someone who's not even a part of the league that could join the league? What are you doing? What's wrong with you? And the guy's like, oh, douchebag. Don't know what was wrong with him. Other than he was a douchebag, in my opinion. And so he complains some more. Doesn't think about anything, just complains and complains and complains. And she says, pointing to me, she was correct. You know she was correct. You're at fault, the male, completely. I did this, I did the game of golf, and it doesn't matter. It means nothing. You know better. Well, he gets all mad. And she tells me, well, you know, thank you for your time. I apologize, that's not your fault. It's him being a douchebag, that's it. And she just kind of, it's like, well, you know, call him like I see him. Well, then the rest of the night, it is what it is. He continues to come over randomly, and he's like, boogada, and it's like, I don't know, just keep looking at this wall of studs. Like, I am such a good person. I'm such a good person. I am such a good person. I'm such a good person. I don't say this out loud. I'm just thinking it. I'm so calm. I'm such a good person. Mind you, I still have the subarachnoid hemorrhage in the frontal lobe of my brain. Okay? I've only been awake from my coma for, you know, a little over 6 years, but still have the subarachnoid hemorrhage in the frontal lobe of my brain. Okay, call me a hippie. Don't let what I'm wearing right now fool you. Just like back then, just because I had a little VW Beetle with no bug car with the American flag right. And so, call me a hippie. I don't know how many hippies you know from the 1960s, 1970s that have like this style hair. But whatever. That's fine. Color and all that. So anyway, so he's throwing his little temper tantrum randomly. And then I go to walk out and a few weeks go by. He continues doing this. After about the 3rd week of this happening, this is where I'm like, I can't look at this wall of stuff anymore and remain calm. I'm seeing every one of these pool tables with all of these pool balls, and it's like, I cannot remain calm anymore after weeks of this. 3 weeks in a row. And again, I deal with memory deficits and cognitive disorders, so I am remembering this. Dealing with headaches at the time. He wants to complain like a little bitch. This is true. And so he randomly continues doing this, and it's like, all right, so on my way out at a point in time, I go and say, boo! And apparently that scared him. He's been doing it for 3 weeks or whatever. Titty baby temper tantrum. Whiny, whiny, whiny. And then he goes and yells, bitch. Well, I turn around and say, yeah, I was born in the year of the dog. How'd you know? Thanks for recognizing. Bye. As I was walking out the door. And he was all bowdy. Well, of course, someone who's all tattletale, titty baby temper tantrum already. Going and talking about the game of pool, and then bringing up the game of golf. Whiny, titty baby temper tantrum. And so I get called in by the ref again. And I explained to her that this is going on, and she goes, well, he's a part of this. And I looked at her, I said, you know what? That's unacceptable. There is no reason that you should ever take his side. Ever. Whatsoever. If you take his side on that, I hope that you don't have pool tournaments anymore. I don't care. I will not tolerate that at all. I have no problem putting to waste if I have to. Do not make that mistake. Well, it is what it is as far as whether or not they have pool tournaments anymore. Just is as it is. And so, it is what it is. So when I am correct, and life is what it is, accept that I'm correct. Do not go, and there is no excuse for anyone that would purposefully go after someone repeatedly, and over again, ever. The blame should be on the individual who repeatedly went after, needlessly caused a bunch of problems, and they should be handled and dealt with. There is no excuse to ever blame the person that's literally the victim in that particular reference. There is no excuse whatsoever. And anybody that would be a part of that, go ahead and lay waste to your stuff permanently. I don't care what it is. If you'd rather do that than lay waste to it, I'm fine with that. I will allow you to lay waste fully to it. If you take the side when you know it is incorrect, I will allow you to lay waste permanently without any resuscitation. I will not allow it. I don't care. If it is absolutely inaccurate and you know that there has been needless problems because of that, there is no excuse whatsoever. There is every right for someone to defend themselves, and I didn't even defend myself by technicalities. So that whiny little titty baby temper tantrum male continued on as he did. And then when I wouldn't take it anymore, all I did was one thing, and he cried and crumbled like the little bitch he was. There's no excuse. I don't care about anybody's feelings when that happens. Because if you continuously do something like that and you expect somebody to not do anything, you are at fault just as much. You are just as culpable, in my opinion. Because anybody that would allow that, you are just as guilty, no matter what. Because there's no excuse for that whatsoever. Anybody that wishes otherwise, wishes otherwise. It's a wish. It's not going to be anything other than waste. Because if you do that don't ever pretend that you have any rights, because you literally remove your own rights when you do something like that. Because if you are willing to stand by the side and not actually stand up for what is correct, the saying is stand for something and fall for nothing. If you do not stand up for the actual correct something, you will fall for everything. And that's just the reality. So if that's the whatever of, lay waste to it. There's no need for it ever again. Don't care. Well, there's March 2020, as far as however you want to take that in consideration. Not forgetting and needing to remember the fact that it was a grown male going after a female. Don't pretend that that's not sexism. Don't pretend that at all. That is pure sexism. Any female that would stand on the side of that, you are asking that for yourself then. You are actually requesting that for that to happen to you. Don't ever ask for assistance from a female at that point. Don't ask for any sympathy or empathy in any capacity of. Because if you are willing to actually do that, there is no excuse whatsoever. You need to fix and repair that fully, in my opinion. There's just no excuse for anything as far as that's concerned. Those types of people then wonder why other problems occur. It's because of those types of people. Everything goes downhill the second you stand by and do nothing. And it's time and time and time seen again and again and again. You wonder why certain crime issues are what they are? It's because of those types of situations where good people could have done something. And then those same people who want to stand by and do nothing, they're surprised when something happens to them when they shouldn't be. At all. Whatsoever. So that's my personal opinion. Because there's no excuse whatsoever. You cannot purposely, day in and day out, week after week, go after someone, and it doesn't matter that he didn't know about my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000. That actually makes it just worse, if you do. If you know about the after effects of my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000, you are worse of a human being for that. That does not make you any better. That actually makes you worse. Because if you stand by and do nothing, that makes you less of a human being some more. So no matter what, the only way is to actually make the correct choice in the correct stance. And you can't go and do biases in that way. Otherwise, say bye-bye to whatever hobby it is that you had. Because it's going to go to crap and it will be laid to waste. I can give an example. Scuba divers in the civilian recreational sector. When you should have stood up for my rights back in 2009, you knew what was going on. You laid waste to Clear Springs Scuba Park. It used to be an actual lake. It's now a pond. That's the facts. Every situation that has gone on for over a decade now, where all that had to be done was just ask me in truth, and instead the needless situations that occurred, you have only proven how that's to be laid to waste as to how it has been. Because by 2019, there's no excuse. The individual who showed up, flew up to Washington State twice. Because if I'm accurate in regards of 2014, as far as Duke Seafood, you stood by and did nothing. A second time, third strike is 2019. Third strike as far as that garbage. Don't pretend that that isn't a problem. That lets you know that every civilian recreational scuba diver, if you don't like that title, why? It's a title. It's the truth. That's the facts. I'm not being mean at all. I promise you. I absolutely promise you. I'm not being mean at all when I call civilian recreational scuba divers, because it's a recreation. That's what I was told, that it's a recreation. You're civilians, so that translates to civilian recreational scuba diver, by your own definition. Period and end of story. Any civilian recreational scuba diver that doesn't like the fact that they call it recreational scuba, is it because I don't use the last syllable? Is that what the problem is? Because if that's the case, it's still the same word. Doesn't change it at all. Because of the amount of time that it has been, it shouldn't have taken the length of time that it has. There is no excuse, because I had made attempts in the year of 2009, 2010, 2011, and 2012. When it came to different areas in the state of Texas, not one person ever actually assisted me. That shows the lack of responsibility, as in a recreation. I was told it's called the lazy man scuba, or lazy man sport. Which one is kinder? Calling it civilian recreational scuba diving or lazy scuba diving? Which one sounds prettier? Because I can call it lazy scuba diving in comparison to civilian recreational scuba diving. It works either way. But I thought I'd be more respectful by calling it civilian recreational scuba diving in comparison to lazy scuba divers. So either way, it's perfectly fine one way or another, because you've proven it either way as to the length of time. That's the facts. Because I have made attempt after attempt after attempt after attempt. I sent things out in comparison. There's nobody that's ever spoken with me in truth about my scuba diving. That lets you know that anybody that stirred up any needless drama just because, even though I had made attempts to, but because it wasn't done in your pre-prescription way, that's your fault. That's no different than the pool being compared to the game of golf, in my opinion. That's just the facts. And it doesn't change the work that I did at all, whatsoever, in any capacity. That's a whole other ball of wax. So, in the other reference to the male pool hall situation, I walked away. And even though I wasn't even playing, that male came over and stirred up needless drama. I wasn't on the team. I wasn't even doing anything. I was just sitting down. And that male came over and stirred up some more needless drama. I got confronted by the referee, and when I informed the referee that was occurring, that's when something happened to him. That's when his team was docked. That's when his team got in trouble. That's when they had lost their spot, because when it was found out that he was stirring up needless drama the entire time, and literally it had been seen that I wasn't on any of the lists to play. I wasn't doing anything at all, except for sitting down in a chair and drinking a soda. When that continued on, because he went and lied to the referees over and over again, they continued to watch him. So this went on for about 3 months. On the 3rd month that he tried to get one of the referees again to come over to me, the referee apologized to me, because he shouldn't have been doing that to begin with. She found out to the length of time, so it was technically a total of 4 months that he was doing that. And it was one of those, why didn't this get taken care of beforehand? and she was a new referee and all that sort of stuff, fine. But that doesn't change the fact that your prior referees were doing that and allowing that. That's a problem that for 4 months, your prior referees were allowing him to do that. There is no excuse for that. And I hope that gets cleared and she was appalled because she didn't believe that that was actually going on to that length of time. And it's one of those, that lets you know those types of people. Because if you allow that to continue any further, you're gonna lay it to waste. So either that gets fixed and repaired correctly, or it's just gonna be laid to waste over and over again. There's no excuse for those types of people, no matter what. I don't care who they think they are. That's just the facts. Because there is no excuse for it whatsoever. Those types of people literally have been needed to be put into their place. Because there is no acceptable behavior regarding that at all. And so in reference of my scuba diving, that's exactly that. My scuba diving. It has been going on 13 years, and there is not one person who has ever had the common sense or courtesy of actual respect to my work. At all. No one has even asked me what that would translate to. Those types of civilian recreational scuba divers, or whatever it is, that literally shows you how you don't appreciate life. Because if you actually appreciated life, by this point in time, I actually would have been asked what it would be. I shouldn't have to put it out there. Because that's arrogance, in my opinion. Because if you actually appreciate somebody's work, you actually make the effort to actually find out by using your words and having an actual discussion. If you don't do that, if you don't have it within you to actually have the courage to just ask, what would ever make you think that you'd ever be seen as appreciating the work? Because realistically, it's not rocket science. How difficult does it actually have to be when you really think about it to actually ask me what it would be? That lets you know it's no different than those types of people that think that you can just look at something and automatically you know. Unless you actually have that sight, which if you don't, just acknowledge you don't. Don't continue with that skeptical garbage. Because the situations that I have dealt with because of what individuals who knew what others were going to do, who knew that I was going to deal with stuff instead of being men. That's the facts. Because if they were actual men, they would not have ever allowed that to occur. I dealt with what I dealt with. Instead, there wasn't anybody that actually kept me safe because of the facts, because of what it is to actually be kept safe. In comparison, don't pretend in regards of certain things technologically. In person, face to face, in person. How many times did I have to physically defend myself? Don't pretend that anybody ever actually kept me safe in the correct ways. Because if you would have asked what I actually needed. Especially when it comes to the state of Texas. Look at what happened in the year of 2020. That was in Austin, Texas. That was literally in Austin. Knowing what I had already dealt with, there is no sensitivity as far as that's concerned. There is no common sense as far as that's concerned. And after everything I dealt with when it comes to my Medal of Honor art project trips, where what I should have just been asked instead, if you would do that to any male, then I won't call you a feminazi. If you would actually do that to a male, if you would not do that to a male, and you would actually ask a male, then yes, you are a feminazi. Because there is no feminist that would actually do that just because. You would ask. That's the facts. If I was a male, if I was an actual male, I do not believe that what I dealt with during any one of my Medal of Honor art project trips would have occurred, looking back now in the year of 2022. And the facts are, if I'm accurate, go find the individuals and ask them if they would have asked a male. If their answer is something along the lines of, yeah, or of course, or would have, whatever, that shows you the sexism. Automatically. That's simple. Because no feminist, no male or female that would actually be in the process of actually protecting me would not ask. Because why wouldn't you ask me? Just think about it. Because if it's one of those, well, want to test this or what, no. I was dealing with all sorts of stuff already. Not only was that disrespectful to my work and disrespectful to what I was working on, you actually put me at risk. In comparison, you may have thought in that hypothetical that you were being chivalrous. That's not chivalry. That's not helpful at all. I dealt with a whole bunch of, there's the Montana vortex. If you didn't believe in energetic stuff, you literally put me at risk because of your arrogance. In that hypothetical, Montana 2017, why wouldn't, and so don't pretend in regards of individuals that want to try to claim otherwise in reference to religious or spiritual aspects. As far as the Montana vortex, that's all that's needed. You put me at risk. You didn't do anything to help me, just no different than in regards of my scuba diving. Because if you actually would have done something that would have been correct, you would have spoken with me. You knew what happened as far as my daughter, my son, and I. That's the facts. Don't pretend that anybody has any right to be upset, because the only right that they have to be upset is at themselves, not at me. Everybody has to accept that fact. Because there is nobody, not one person on earth that actually has any right to be upset with me. Not one. There is no one at all. You have every right to be upset with yourselves, though. That's what you need to do. That's what you seriously need to think about. Because anybody that would wish otherwise, no. Absolutely not. Each and every one of you people who knew, who could have actually assisted me in the correct way, you made the choices you did. You need to live with that, which you do. Because when you take a look at how everything has been since March of 2020, supposedly. Because I'll believe stuff when I actually have a reason to. I haven't had a reason to believe in human beings' decency pretty much since I woke up from my coma. There's not a point in time that I actually could believe in anybody. That's the thing that nobody probably took in consideration. That there wasn't one person, in person, face to face, in person with me, that I could actually trust because they didn't give me a reason to. At all. And that's the facts. To this day, I have been truthful, I've been honest, but what happened? I gave birth after having a subarachnoid hemorrhage in the frontal lobe of my brain. Who did what to actually assist me? In truth, I gave birth to a second child. I was in the process of being taught how to spell words, learn to count, all that stuff. While dealing with what I was dealing with, how many emergency room visits? Don't pretend. I really don't know what humanity is from other human beings. Because while some people might think that they've been humane, if you do not tell me the truth, you're not. If you think that that is considered humane, to me, knowing what I've dealt with, I don't believe that that's humanity. At all. After everything that has been known as to what I've dealt with, I've reached out to law enforcement who has actually assisted me as I actually need it. In comparison, I've worked repeatedly to actually have what I need. In comparison to what other people in that communist sort of way think that I deserve. In that communist socialized way. Instead of what I earned. Because what I earned in comparison, there is not one person who's ever actually celebrated with me. It's the facts. But why would you ask? It's no different regarding my childhood. No different regarding my teenage years. What is it to actually be cared about in the correct capacity? Because that requires in-person, face-to-face in-person. Not that way, as far as a lecture. Not in regards of the garbage Zoom crap. That is the furthest thing from ever being considered as care or concern. I don't care what anybody wishes to try to claim. That is not care. And that is not concern. In the genuine way. At all. Whatsoever. So, the aspects of what I've dealt with since that pool hall garbage situation, after additionally medical hold unit, and all those other factors, at what point in time does anything actually get done correctly for me in the actual correct way? Not by other people's interpretations as to what they think. By what I actually know is best for me, or at the very minimum of actually having the human decency to actually ask me. Nobody has. I'll believe that somebody will ask me when it actually happens. Because that requires actually asking me. Not in any other way than in person, face-to-face in person, or through my 2-contact form. That's it. I mean, there's been the phone for years. Nobody has had the decency to just ask me. I have been out in the open, no problem. Not until after the COVID situation have I not been. So nobody can pretend otherwise. So all the way up until 2018, as far as that particular Medal of Honor art project trip, that's the only time I went in to go and take care of myself as best as I could, after those situations. But why would anybody actually do anything that would actually be assistive to me? In comparison, which, do you know what assistive is regarding this lecture? It translates to speaking with me in truth. Not in metaphors unless you specify it's a metaphor and what you specifically are referring to. In comparison. So if other people knew that I authored my books, all you had to do was speak with me in truth. That entire time. Unlike some people, I don't do certain things. So while other people could have just asked me, that's literally all that had to happen. This whole time. That was it. That's all it took. That is how many people have been so accustomed to social media more than actually discussing with people. That's how many assumptions have been made over the years, where all you had to do was ask me. That's it. Instead, I didn't forget. I remembered the whole time. Obviously. But when other people play games instead, that's where you don't have humanity. So if you play games and you could have just spoken with me in truth, you literally proved that you don't have humanity. Especially when I don't play games. Unless you're ignorant and would think the GameStop stuff that I had arranged for my son and my daughter, and you wouldn't think any other way. Because why would you have common sense? That would require asking instead. So I've clarified that time and time again. But people who don't have children would assume, although they'd assume that I would do whatever they'd assume in comparison. How about you ask? How difficult is it truthfully to ask? Because I've asked a whole bunch of times. I pray every day. I don't have to actually speak out loud though. See, that's the thing. When it comes to a true spiritual individual, you don't actually have to pray out loud. If you're actually spiritual. If you have to actually pray out loud each and every time, because you have to use your technology device in comparison of actual spirituality, that's something different, and that's on other people in comparison. Because I can pray anytime. I don't even have to actually go into a meditative stance. To be honest, I can pray and I am while speaking. It's called being capable to multitask. So I don't know what other people assume as far as prayer is concerned, but that's them in comparison to me. And I've known how to do this for decades. So whatever you have been taught is whatever you have been taught. I've known how to pray for a very long time. And so there goes into a whole of other aspect of differences. So while I have been appreciative where I can be, but that goes to my prayers quietly. I don't have to do certain things unless other people wish for that, and that's their wishes in comparison. Because that's something else in a whole different capacity. If you need to have certain things, that's your own issues. Especially if you haven't even done anything that's out in the open and known. That's kind of the other thing. I don't do hinting. So anybody that would wish to do hinting and think that that's the same as being honest, no, it's not. I have put that out there that I know how to pray without speaking. I know how to do quite a few different aspects of spirituality. I've studied for decades. However, it does get aggravating after a certain point in time when it comes to certain situations, especially when it comes to all that had to be done was ask me. I begged and pleaded for assistance. Haven't gotten it. Not in the ways that I actually need. I've asked repeatedly for people to contact me back for years. But they want to do it however they want to do it in comparison to what would actually assist me. So it is what it is. So I've made multiple attempts over and over again. And while some people might think otherwise, I haven't hidden. So I'm going to reiterate the modern day book regarding my website, www.susanmeling.com, in my books section, as well as my journal blog, The Ornery PSA, from my starting point of updates. Because if there were a bunch of people that knew about the after effects of my head injury and were just, oh, well, let's not actually disturb anything, why not just ask? Or is it that people thought that, oh, well, she'll recognize immediately in comparison to years later as to a possibility? That's not humane. So there was a situation I've referred to. Everything that I had dealt with up to that point in time, I went to a location where I saw a male and a female. And the male asked, hey, are you so-and-so? Or the female asked, whatever, one or the other. And they had been capable to connect. They were capable to verify one another. That was great to see. You know what would have been better? To experience that personally, instead of just watching it. Because I don't like movies. Don't like plays at all. I prefer real life. Unlike some people, apparently. Because real life, in person, face to face, in person. Not pretending, because that's pretentious. So, is what it is at this point. Because realistically, what is humanity? Especially in this day and age, after such lengths of time, after how much it's been. So all that needed to be asked was, did you write some books? Could have been asked that and said yes. Could have been asked that. Nobody asked me. If people said they did, they lied to you. Nobody asked me anything about my work except my Medal of Honor art project. That was it. So if anybody hypothetically showed up, claimed that they spoke with me and asked me my name specifically, whether in reference to Susan Mealing and or Lady Doribel, no one did. They just knew me as Susan, and that was it. Except for my legal paperwork, as far as the form. That's it. Which would have my legal widow or my scuba diver last name. But you'd have to ask me. You'd think it would be easy, especially what would occur in that particular location. Maybe I'm just too different to think that there's honesty in what's supposed to be considered the adult consenting lifestyle. Or maybe it's my ignorance, because I would think that people would be honest, especially with as intimate as that's supposed to be considered in comparison. So anyway, whatever, as far as my website, www.susanmealing.com. Today's the 8th of May, 2022.